Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Teevee Show podcast. Today, we're talking to, I wouldn't say an old friend, but a new friend that I've known actually for a very long time, and I feel like I've known him very well, at least as it relates to his business. Jon Loomer. He is a Facebook advertiser and marketer, and if you're in the advertising space, then you know him. I've been doing marketing since 2009, and I have a pretty decent sized circle of friends. Most of them are marketers. So they all will know you, and I can't wait for them to actually see this show. So Jon, real quick, give us a little bio for those that don't know who you are as to what you do. It doesn't have to be serious. It can be outlandish. It could be anything. Just give us a quick line or two about yourself.
You know, it's funny, like my bio gets longer and longer every year, which makes sense as we get older. But just my business, it's gotten more and more complicated. But so from a business perspective, first of all, I'm a bit of an accidental marketer. I never saw myself as a marketer. I went to school expecting to be a journalist, I think, like a sports journalist or something. I was an English major at first, ended up being a philosophy major. Wow. And didn't know what I was going to do with that. Didn't know what I was going to do with that. But I became very lucky over the years in that, I mean, first of all, great family, wife and kids, 3 boys. Wow. I had a job that I hated, which I think everybody should experience. I had a few of those in the early days. I think it gives you really good perspective.
It does.
On what you will enjoy and what you want to do. I eventually ended up doing something amazing. It helped me appreciate it. So I worked for the National Basketball Association, overseeing fantasy games.
Oh, wow.
It was the most insane opportunity ever. And it felt like a dream, honestly, talking about some of the stuff that I did. But the important part one of the important parts relationship to starting a business was we partnered with Facebook back in 2007. So that was when it just opened up to all the non-students. So there was 50 million people on the platform. And that's when I really got to know the platform, and I fell in love with it, like a lot of people did, for like reconnecting with old friends and whatnot. But I became comfortable with it from a business perspective as well. Left the NBA, got laid off twice, and knew I did not want to move my family again. Didn't want to keep bouncing around. A little perspective too is that our oldest son is a cancer survivor. So that was one of those where, you know, what's important, you know, kind of having that understanding of what's important. And, you know, I didn't want a job that was going to send me traveling around all over the place. I didn't want to move us again. That was really important. And so the result of just, you know, not wanting to settle was all I did was start a website, because I didn't know how to start a business. I didn't know, I had one iota of idea how to do that. And I just started writing. And eventually I gained traction, and I started writing about Facebook marketing and then advanced Facebook ad stuff. And I was getting lots of traffic, and I eventually turned that into something. Within a year, I'd say, because it wasn't a quick, I'm starting a business. That's not at all what was happening. But I had to replace income because we were burning through savings and whatnot. But it's a long story. So that's how it started. Yes. That Facebook advertising was really my focus. That's what really helped fuel a business for me, and what I've been doing ever since. Now so it was 2011. End of 2011 when that started. It wasn't really a business in 2011, but I always use that date of when I got laid off as when it all started.
From that moment on is when you started to make some moves.
Correct.
Fantastic. I think I discovered you in 2015 or 16. You found me. I'm sure it was your advertising.
Yeah.
You stalked me everywhere.
Sure.
And I loved it because you did deliver valuable information. You were always really good, and your writing background actually explains why you leaned into your writing, because it was yours, as opposed to everyone else, was almost strictly written format with screenshots, which were fantastic. I really enjoyed them. And you've always been bookmarked on all my, on Facebook specifically, as a favorite, to make sure that your stuff comes up whenever you post. Because I count on you. You know your stuff.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely. So the way this podcast came up was because you sent an email out, basically saying, hey, if you have a podcast, I'm game. I read that and I'm like, I do have a podcast. Maybe. So this podcast is, I talk about a lot of things, mainly around parenting, business, just life in general, personal development. In business as it relates to my own journey, because I too ended up creating a business and kind of accidentally stumbled my way through, and now I'm in a place of relative success. I have two daughters, both of which are, well, one is 20 and one is 18. And I think that's the other
close.
connection.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. You said you had a unique story, and it is unique, but it resembles mine as well. Mine, I quit my day job. I actually didn't get fired, but I quit because I needed to be home with my daughters. I had a grocery business. I worked in the grocery business as a manager, and I had been doing that for many, many years. It was pretty reliable, but it was all over the place in terms of schedules. So being home with my daughters after I got divorced became really complicated. So I ended up quitting to try to figure out the online marketing space. Yeah. It's fascinating. And here we are now with older kids. So I guess one of the first questions I really wanted to ask you was, what's your plan now that your kids are older and about to move on?
Yeah. Look, it's really weird because those early days of the business, the entire focus of it for me was building something that would allow me the freedom, because I wasn't one of those marketers, personalities that wanted to travel the country and the world, public speaking and consulting and all this kind of stuff. I didn't want any of that. I wanted to stay home because my kids at the time were 4, 8, and 11. And I wanted to coach their baseball teams. I wanted to spend as much time with them as I could. We shared a love for baseball, not knowing that how intense that baseball coaching would get eventually as they got older. It was insanity.
I bet.
But so yeah, that was the focus. But as people who don't really know how to start a business, I didn't really think ahead. I wasn't like, okay, how can I make this thing survive 10 years, 20 years? What am I going to be doing in 10 years?
Right.
So weird thing happened, first of all, the business exploded beyond any dreams I could have imagined. And I still feel extremely lucky that happened.
Right place, right time, man. You definitely found a sweet spot.
It was the right place, right time. And that I think my skills and not truly being a marketer helped. It was an advantage. Like having a unique voice compared to a lot of the voices out there.
Yes. I would agree with that.
and the fact that you didn't need to be on video, and I wasn't comfortable being on video at that time, and I could just write, and I'll just do a whole bunch. And Google loves me, which really helped. It's really helped. So the thought, I kept simplifying my business too. Okay, and honestly, ended up with a process. Like, this is how I do things. It's we got a membership. We're going to do courses every few months. This is a software we're using. But that stuff all started getting outdated. COVID happened.
Yeah, that changed everything.
I know that on one hand, I'm not alone in this feeling, but it's also like there are very opposing sides to this, and like how we dealt with that COVID time. Like some business people really took advantage of it because like, oh, yeah, everybody's buying online and this and that. I still trace kind of my struggles to a time when I sent out an email to my entire list. This was in March of 2020 when stuff was just starting to go down. Just kind of asking people how they're doing because I heard there's this thing going on.
I remember that.
Yeah. And the response I received was kind of unexpected. Lots of emails from people primarily Spain, Italy, telling me how horrible it was and to take it seriously. People are losing their jobs, so people are suffering, and now I'm supposed to sell to them. So that's the way I looked at it. A lot of other people looked at it as like an opportunity. People need to go online, so teach them how to go online and things like that. And I did, basically, first of all, I scrapped everything I was going to do that year because it didn't make any sense anymore. I created a cheap course about going online. But man, I completely lost my inspiration and kind of my way that year. Things were probably already on a slow trajectory down because of, the things I was doing wasn't really evolving. The world started picking up again, and basically, honestly, that was like my entire life was coaching, and the business was like my part-time job, it felt like. So then we got to this point. I mean, last year, my business was getting to be in a bad place, and I had to make some moves. And wrapping up the final coaching year because my oldest son was already in college. My middle son was about to go to college. My youngest son was 14, and I was coaching him. So he was about to go to high school.
Wow.
So my world was about to change.
Dramatically.
I was not going to coach anymore, which honestly took up a ton of my time. And not only time, but just mental space and emotion, and it was stressful. But I wasn't going to see my kids a lot. Even my high school son, you know how it is. It's like,
yep, I do.
It's not quite the same
right now.
Exactly. So but in a way, it all happened at the right time because it's like, okay, now I have the space and the time to figure this out. And so like, it's really hard to make big changes when you don't have the mental space to do it. And so that's kind of where I was. It's like, okay, I got to figure this out. What am I not doing? And kind of go down that checklist. So I'm not doing video. It's painful trying to do it, but let's try to do it. Podcasting.
You're doing great.
Hey, it took some work. I've created probably, I don't know, 200-ish, probably 300 videos over the last few months.
No wonder. Yeah. I've actually shown your videos to my girlfriend as a way to motivate her and myself to do this daily. Because if you could do it, and I know you're adamantly have been anti-video, anti-reels, anti-TikTok, and you're doing it, excelling, getting success, and then I need to push myself because I know I need to do it. But to see you do it has been inspirational for that reason because I know your story.
And it has to be a commitment. Like, especially when it's something you're uncomfortable doing. Mm-hmm. It can't be a matter of, I'm going to start doing video now. And then you'll do them when you want to do them. And then when you feel inspired and you won't see, you won't get big, like metrics. You won't see big metrics on them. You'll feel like you're wasting your time and you'll stop doing it. But if you're 100% committed to the process, I'm like, there's a end goal. There's a reason I'm doing this. And I'm going to make sure I publish at least one video every day. It's not that the metrics don't matter. It still hurts when something doesn't do well. But
yeah, I try not to look.
Right. Don't look. Try not to look. But it's also like, it's all a process. Like it's less important that this video goes viral and makes some big impact. it's more important that you're getting out there and being seen by your potential audience. You're getting better, right? It's you're learning it. So why isn't it that I haven't been good at this? It's because I haven't been doing it. Like, so every video you create is a lesson. What did I do wrong? What could I have done better? Watching what other people do. Like, I still feel like when I watch my own videos, like I'm still not like, I'm not comfortable. Like, I wish I were as comfortable as like when I'm talking to you right now. But part of it is because of that. Like, I know when I turn on that camera, I've got to be succinct. I've got to get to the point. I mean, I'm going to edit the hell out of it, but like, I'm going to figure it out. But, and it's hard for me to be casual because I am kind of slow and deliberate when I talk. But I know I also have to have like, it's a minute long and that's it.
Right.
No matter
bang,
what.
Bang.
Yep. That's the max I'm going to do. So it's been a challenge, but it's been exciting though.
They look good. As a viewer, I always look forward to them because I feel like I'm going to learn something and become aware of something. They're engaging. They're bang, 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 as they need to be because of their length. Yeah. And I enjoy them. So I think you're doing fantastic, and I do feel like you're improving with each one. But I definitely understand the resistance, and then obviously seeing yourself makes it difficult. I've been kind of cheating because I'll do reels from these videos.
That's not cheating at all. It's smart.
I've been trying to get 6 to 7 from every podcast to help promote the podcast, and then put it out and see what happens. Some of them do well, some of them don't, but it's become fun to watch. That it's just the continuous process. But I want to do more of what you're doing, especially for my marketing business. I haven't done much for there.
Do you have someone else edit your videos?
Yes, but right now most of them I'm editing myself. Those particular ones, like the podcast ones, like these, I do have someone else. I want to try to get to a point where I give them all to him.
That's where I need to get eventually, because that's where all of this becomes overwhelming to me. So I'll record a podcast. I'll throw like my phone up in the corner and record while it goes on. I'm like, okay, I'm going to use that to create clips for my podcast. I did it for one of them. It's like, oh, it's just so much work. Like, it's one thing to edit a 5-minute video down to a minute. It's another when you've got, like, a lot of times my podcast will end up being 45 minutes or an hour. And I'm like, I've got to find some clips from that, and I got to edit that. It's just, and the fact that like now these podcasts, you kind of expect they all have to go on video. It was so much easier when it was just audio. Just throw it out,
slap it out there,
throw it into a template pretty much, and you're ready to go. But that's the biggest challenge for me right now. And part of it is like I want to do it myself first before I pass it off on to somebody.
Yeah, that's the same way with me.
Yeah, just to get a sense of how it works and what I want and what I should expect. But truthfully, look, I don't really want to pay anybody right now to do more work because that's where I'm at.
I totally understand.
So we'll get there. That's the next phase. That's one of my motivators is like I need these videos to do so well that we grow, and I can start paying people to do that stuff.
Justify it. Yeah. I have a question for you. Let's take a trip back in time. When did you realize that being laid off was going to be a great thing, a blessing, I suppose? When in that path did you say, oh, wait, this might actually be beneficial? Was there a time?
Oh, I mean, eventually there definitely was. I'm just trying. I would think. I would say that probably. I think would be the month when I made as much money as I was making when I had a job.
Oh, that sounds about right. That's the magic number.
Right. So in the early months, basically what I would do is, I was doing a little bit of consulting, like managing for ads for people, just some general consulting. The website was doing so well that I was making some decent money, even with like AdSense, and
oh wow, that's really good.
People were buying space on my site, and I've never been big into what can't I think of why can't I think of what it's called, where you sell stuff for other people?
Arbitrage?
Affiliate. That's how far out of my mind affiliate marketing is. I've never been big into affiliate marketing, but back then it was like I need to make money. So what I did basically was I had all these things for running my business. I was like I used this thing like, oh, they have an affiliate agreement that I could sign up for. Easy. And then, so like whenever I mention it, and my traffic was so good that I did reasonably well with that. So I wasn't even like selling it. It just was natural, which was helpful.
You're using it. You're mentioning it.
Yeah. So it was during those times when I was making about the same amount as I made with a job. That's like, okay, I did it. Now that took some time. I mean, it was.
How long was that?
10 months or a year. And then when it really took off, but even then, it's like I didn't really have a business yet, right? And I'm careful with this because I understand there are affiliate marketers out there. This is their livelihood.
Right.
But I feel like until you sell your own product, you don't really have a business, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like I realized, okay, this space on my website is obviously very valuable. So could I turn that into something that I sell? And I didn't know how to create a product. And I was obviously, what's that?
It sounds familiar because that's the very same trajectory for me in my business with my former business partner.
And
I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah. And you have that fear of like, okay, I don't know how to create a product. I don't know if anyone's going to buy it.
Right.
My email list it might have been like a couple thousand people at the time because I only started the email list like 4 or 5 months after I started the website. But anyway, it's just one day I was like, oh, screw it. Send out an email to my list, put a PayPal button in there. And to sign up for what I would do is I would review their Facebook page. That was it. I would send them a document back with my review, and there's a video I think too, of my review of what I saw and what I recommended, and that was it. Not a particularly scalable product. It was one of those things that it was ideal because if no one bought it, what am I out, right?
Nothing.
I didn't create anything.
You're smart. Yes.
I didn't create anything. So, and people bought it. And I remember even like Mari Smith noticed it. And she was like, we even had a conversation about how, is there a way that, like she could sell it or something like that didn't work because there's like, her audience was so huge and like how in the world would that scale? So that was the first realization. I was like, okay, I can do something. I could sell something. But it wasn't. I think it was 2013. I've had to go back and forth on this. Yeah. Like my memory's cloudy, but I think it was 2013 where I launched my first course. It was Power Editor, how to use Power Editor.
I remember that one. You had it for a while.
Yeah, I actually did a couple of iterations of it.
Yes.
That thing changed my world. Changed my life.
It was amazing. I love that program because it explained the Power Editor because it was crazy in there. When I first jumped in there, like, oh my God, there's so many buttons and things and knobs. Well, what do I do with all this?
Yeah, and kind of like you're saying, right place, right time, right? I mean, this feels, looking back, like it was strategic. Right? I was like, oh, yeah, Facebook advertisers, advanced Facebook advertisers, those are the people who are investing in something, spending a lot of money in this thing. So it's not the beginners, just the advanced, which is what Power Editor is. That's just for the advanced people. And Power Editor is so clunky and buggy and frustrating to people. They need someone to help them. Perfect storm, best thing to do.
Jon Loomer, whoosh,
and like it seems like that was really well thought out. It wasn't. I just got really lucky that was the right path, it was perfect path, and it blew everything up. And I ended up kind of being the Power Editor guy,
You were. For me, you're more than that. You were the Facebook guy. Yeah. I'm telling you, everyone in my circle, and I would have used to be around a lot of people in this marketing space. You were the go-to guy. You were our number one resource. That was it. period. Then everybody else has started selling little products on the side. But you were the one that I think was the fairest, less hypey, just down to earth. I knew that you weren't going to try to upsell me to 5 other things. Right. So I trusted you. Yeah. So thank you for that.
Yeah. That was intentional. Ultimately not great for business, but it's
oh, I get it. It took me like 10 years to get to a place of some comfort because I didn't want to be that slimy, hard push guy. It was just slow and steady,
Yeah. And
I love your approach.
There's a lot of benefits to that, right? You're going to have fewer people who have buyer's remorse because they take their time. They've read your stuff. You don't put everything behind a paywall or whatever. Like, they know you by the time they're ready to buy. They're not talked into it the first time they stumble on you. And you haven't proven to them the value. You just like convince them based on words, you know?
Yes.
As opposed to you've read my stuff, you've watched my stuff, you've listened, whatever. I feel like that's all. It's beneficial as a business too.
But you definitely have their trust that you've earned over a long period of time. I think if you were to put anything out and you have a good portion of your audience, your mailing list, and just people that follow you, that would purchase. You have a status in the marketplace because of that. Standing power, I guess, would be another way to put it. Like to think that I'm interviewing you it was a little nerve wracking. Like I'm interviewing one of my idols, and it sounds crazy, but you are one of those people. And to find out that and I kind of already picked up on this. You're a little more reserved, soft spoken, and I know that, but it still made me a little bit nervous. And at the end of the day, it makes perfect sense that you stumbled your way through, as many of us did.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I have another question for you.
Yeah.
Because for me, marketing has done a lot. I didn't realize it at the time, but marketing is in everything, right? I've come to believe that it's in every aspect of life. You know, the way you market, the way you position words, write things, have conversations. It's sales, it's marketing. And I have some cool projects that I've been able to support and grow because of that. And I was curious if through your skills, through your skill set, if you have anything that you have been involved in that you've or been passionate about. I know you mentioned baseball and your little league, your coaching, right? Mm-hmm. But is there anything that you use your skills for, these skills, to help awareness, attention, growth?
Baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in 2015, my middle son was 11 years old, and we've decided that his current situation on his baseball team, we're looking for a change.
Okay.
And I actually wasn't the head coach at that point, and I was like, I was ready to be a head coach again, and I started a team.
Well, this could be good.
It's actually kind of interesting. I launched a website in the summer of 2015. Within 30 days, that website had more traffic than any month of jonloomer.com.
Wow.
Which
That's
was
saying
crazy.
A lot.
I know. Which was kind of frustrating, honestly.
But wait.
Because it's like, well, but it all made sense. So basically what I was doing, I wrote a ton. I just wrote about baseball, about kids playing baseball, about coaching, about the stuff that parents face as well. It was a little bit of everything, but I had so much in my brain to get out there. And so I wrote. A lot
in your head.
Yep. And there was some stuff that really hit a chord with people that did really well. But so, I mean, it makes sense when you think about it. When things are a passion versus a necessity for business, it's so much easier to drive traffic to it. So like I had a Facebook page that was insane, the amount of traffic it drove. Like I would share a post from the Facebook page and get 10,000 link clicks on it to my website.
Wow.
It was ridiculous. So it did really well. But I did it. I mean, it ended up being kind of like a universal thing. Right? I was focused primarily locally, like, because I wanted to build a brand before it existed, because I knew it was a competitive space. You can't just start a baseball team and like, hey, we're awesome. Like, you have to have, okay, this is my coaching philosophy. You know, so when I was recruiting kids, which is crazy, you recruit kids, but that's just the nature of things. I would send them links to the website, like, this is my coaching philosophy. Like, who else can do that? So it felt like an advantage. But yeah, so I used my skills, the things I learned creating JonLoomer.com to build that.
Build a team. Yeah. So you ended up having a team that competed.
Yeah.
Is this whole time that your son's up until high school, or how that?
So it started with my middle son until he went to high school, and then I started over with my youngest son when he was 11 until he went to high school. So it was 7 total. Actually, you can't see it because it's all fuzzy, but those are all pictures of the teams and stuff. Besides James Brown. James Brown's a little random in there, but there are 7 different years of the team, and but it was competitive, and it felt like it was more competitive every year and intense, and doing travel, and there was high expectations out of parents. I'm sure high expectations out of kids. I mean, we are in Colorado, which isn't like a hotbed necessarily for baseball, or it isn't viewed that way. But at the same time, these kids all go to high schools that are huge. So like my kids go to a high school or went, it's 2,500 kids. I say huge, but a lot bigger than what I went to.
That's about the size I went to here in Dallas.
Really? So competing. So it all kind of makes sense. Like some parents and kids are thinking about, going pro, playing D1, getting scholarships, things like that. But you also are just trying to play in high school, which is not easy to do when you go to a big high school. So it's intense. It's way more intense than it ever was when I was a kid. And I played into college, but so it was a fun journey as a coach. It's probably not over. Like, I'll probably coach one day again, but I needed the break too, for sure.
So let me tell you my story.
Yeah.
I have a handful of things that I've done, but one that almost rides a similar timeline as yours. I'm a dancer. I've been dancing for a while, something called Kizomba. It's a dance that came out of Angola. It's gotten really popular in Europe, and then made its way over to the U.S. 2014 or 15 is when it really started to trend. Fell in love with it, and I danced as much as I could, but it was a growing dance style, and the community was really small. You would have to travel to go find places to dance. And about in 2019, I decided that I was going to stop sitting on the sideline and help develop and nurture a community here in Dallas. So in the last 4 years, 2 of which were during COVID, I would host. At first, it was weekly, then it was bi-weekly, and then it became during COVID. And when we came out of COVID, it was once a month. I would host dance events, socials, what we call them. The brand is called Kids Passion, and I just retired from it last week, 2 weeks ago. I handed over this not the brand. I still have the brand, but this event. So what the event allowed me to do is to kind of flex my marketing muscles, Facebook and all the other platforms, but mainly Facebook, to bring more people to show up to dance it, to learn more about it, to take classes. And now we have one of the hottest, biggest scenes in the entire country.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's interesting that you mentioned, you have to be passionate about it.
Yeah.
Of all the different accounts I manage for my clients, even for myself, even my marketing brand, this one is the funnest to write for.
Sure.
To tell stories about, to be clever and be metaphorical, almost poetical with it.
Yeah.
It taught me how to shoot better photos because I had to end up buying a camera. It taught me how to learn how to DJ, at least enough to, impress people and get people on the dance floor. I had to learn that's when I really started learning how to edit videos, because we had to do clips and all types of stuff.
Sure.
And and then of course the advertising is just getting enough bodies in the room, in the house, to make sure that it felt like it was going to be a fantastic time. And that to me has been one of the most, and I have a lot of proud moments around marketing, but it was like realizing that I had this skill that I just finally decided to flex in this space and create a community that finally, after 4 years, I was able to walk away from, because like you said, it takes up so much time and resource, mental space.
Yes.
Like, what am I going to post today? What am I going to talk about? And I only was doing it once a month, but I was spending a bunch of money on it to ensure that I was getting, I was pushing, trying to get at least, by the time I left, 100 people in the house. And that's a lot for these things. It was free. It was all free, by the way. But it was it was one of those moments of pride to know that I did that, but always wondering, like, where's these words coming from? I'd be typing and like, how am I writing this? But it's that passion that allowed me to just be creative. It's been fun.
Yeah. I think we all dream of that one day. That's all we do is what we are most passionate about. It's not that, what I do or what you do, we're not passionate about. Like, we're passionate about it, but like, end of the day is like, do I want to be talking about Facebook ads 20 years from now? Is there even going to be a that's one of the realizations I've had over the last, couple of years, is like, long term, if I want to keep having a business, I should probably be thinking about, what else I'm going to be talking about or doing.
Yeah. What's on the horizon? But,
passions are something that a lot of times, can be evergreen. So, and I've long thought about, like, how could I turn the baseball stuff into a business? I even started a podcast.
I was about to ask about that. Yes.
And the truth is, like, I learned a lot from what I did with the baseball team and applied it to like my business. Like, that's where I would experiment. I would run ads because it's so cheap. It was so cheap too, right? Because you could get so much engagement on it. But I would experiment with it there, and then like learn from that. But I started the podcast right after the season ended last summer, and I started something completely new. Where I was doing these short episodes.
Yes, I remember that.
Right. So I started with the baseball podcast first, and then I applied it more to my podcast as well, and it's just fun though, It's like when you don't expect money in return, you're not going to get anything in return, right? There's no pressure that like, oh, this has to perform or what's going to happen or whatever. Like, you're just doing it because you love it, and that's kind of where I was, and I was definitely proud of, like, one of those pictures back there. I'm not sure if I can get to it again. It's fuzzy, but a parent put it together where it's like, I'm gonna get emotional even saying it. It was a picture of each of the 7 teams that I coached over those 7 years.
Man,
and it's a lot. And we did things differently too. So like, we were very competitive, but I also was like, we're not crazy like some of these people. We're not cutthroat. We're going to be one of the best.
I wouldn't imagine you would be.
Well, there's I think I was, like, with my oldest. Like, with my oldest, I was kind of crazy. That was my first exposure to coaching, and I started softening up a little bit with my middle son. Like, I think by the end of his run, I had much more of a balanced view. And then it was, definitely through my youngest son that it was completely different, really, from anyone else we were playing. And I think parents appreciated that, kids appreciated that, and it made it more fun.
Tell me, what draws you to baseball? Where does that passion come from?
Well, a couple of things, I think.
I'm gonna tell you real quick. So baseball was my first love, my first sport.
Yeah,
I used to collect baseball cards. At some point in time, I even became a dealer. Mm-hmm. That's how I started making my first dollars, selling in high school. Then I even had a partnership with another group of kids who they would buy the sleeves to put the cards in, and the binders and the Beckett.
Man.
Yes, the Beckett price guides. That's how I was slung cards and traded, and made money until somebody stole my baseball card collection from my locker in middle school.
Oh.
And from that moment on, I said, I'm done. I don't know what happened. It was like a trigger. I was so sad. I probably was borderline depressed, and I've never watched it with the same passion because I broke my heart. But that's just an aside. But baseball is something that I've always been passionate about, but it got dampened after that.
Well, we're definitely going to get to baseball cards, but my love of the game. Well, first of all, I think so. My dad, he's one of 5 boys. They grew up playing baseball. They grew up in Wisconsin. They were Milwaukee Braves fans, huge Milwaukee Braves fans. So my brother and I were huge Brewers fans. It also timed up nicely. I was 7 years old in 1982 when they had their most memorable team that went to the World Series. They lost.
Who was on that team?
Oh, man. They had Paul Molitor, Robin Yount, Raleigh Finger, Cecil Cooper, Ben I could go on and on. But it was a very memorable team that was just like a cast of characters and just fun to root for. And, at an age, I was 7. That ages me. You can figure it out. But very formative.
We're about the same age. We're about the same age. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm 47 going on 48.
Yep. We're the exact same age. I thought so. Okay.
That's crazy. So formative years, fell in love with the sport, fell in love with the team. As a kid, we moved around a lot. So we actually moved out of Wisconsin, but I never lost my love for the Brewers. I raised my kids as Brewers fans amazingly.
Really? In Colorado?
Yeah.
Okay.
But, the baseball card thing was huge. It was a huge part of... Okay. My dad was a math professor, so math nerd, stats stuff, right?
Yes.
The back of baseball cards, the stats... It ultimately, honestly, led me to marketing and stats and all that. Like,
it makes perfect sense, yes.
Right?
Who knew?
So, like, I still, looking at the back of baseball cards, like, why are some of these stats in bold and italics?
Yes.
Like, okay, this guy's like, why there's so many rows? It's because he's had this long career and like,
oh my God.
And a lot of times, it's like becoming a fan because of his card. But it's not like we had internet. It's not like we saw lots of games on TV. But you just end up with certain players you liked.
Right.
But yeah, I got into the same game. So baseball card collecting, I was intense to the point where like I was mad every Christmas because my parents would not give me baseball cards. I think they thought it was a waste of money or something. It was just my grandma. Sure. My grandma would always come through and give me some baseball cards. But I would spend
Granny.
Yeah, I would spend like every dollar I owned on baseball cards. I started selling them. I would reserve tables at card shows.
Wow. You're one of them. I didn't go that far.
Here we go. Before the internet, online billboards. Remember online bulletin boards? Sorry, bulletin boards.
Yes,
what it was before the true internet. So there's like dial up to it and everything. I actually sold baseball cards on that. And honestly, that's what depleted my collection. It's actually in my storage right now. It's probably been like soaked in water and stuff for all I know, in boxes and stuff. But I gave it to my kids. They never really came around to the card collecting. I stopped really 91, 92. It just started getting too crazy with all the brands and everything else. Also, I was going from high school to college, and I just didn't care anymore. But still probably the prize card, just because, partly from the history. My brother bought me for my birthday a Robin Yount rookie card, 1975 Topps Mini.
Wow.
So it's they made smaller versions that were worth more.
Interesting. I never heard of that one.
Yeah, and it was like an $18 card at the time. Is the ups and downs of the market. It went way up, and I don't know it's probably not worth a ton now. But I gave it to my oldest son, so he has it now. So now it's been kind of passed down.
I love it. Absolutely. I didn't think I was going to talk about baseball. It just came up, and I got emotional because I was such a sad little boy. I put so much into it.
Oh man,
I've always been hustling, and that's what I've actually told people. Like, I think I got it from my mom because she always has this little hustle.
Yeah.
And I would do this. I used to collect stamps. Somebody stole those. And like, people just steal my crap.
Jeez, everybody steals stuff.
It's crazy, but I was passionate. So stinking passionate about it. It broke my heart. At any rate.
But there really is a business slant to that, right? I mean,
yes, absolutely.
I think that experience, like I also realized over the years, I did not come out ahead on my baseball cards. Like I would sell stuff, I would buy stuff, and I probably wasn't very smart about what I sold and what I bought and when and the timing and all that.
You're a kid.
It's a good experience, though.
Yeah, this is exactly it. Which actually kind of brings me to my next kind of question. It's a question. It's a question. Something that I've come to realize is that all the various crazy things that I've done in my life actually benefit me today. Like things that seem very random, like even baseball card collecting. And I've heard some people call it a skill stack, and it makes perfect sense. So in my previous years, I told you I was a manager, and at some point in time, I've had people tell me I did that business. I was in that business from the age of 15 to like almost 38.
Wow.
I started off as a sacker. They don't even have sackers anymore. You have to bag your own stuff. Yeah. But in that time, one of the things that I've taken out of it is that I know how to manage people. I'm pretty good at speaking with people and working with customers and employees and management, upper management. Became a pretty good videographer. I came pretty good. I didn't know I was that good at writing, but until I started writing more, like, words are just coming out of these fingers. How? Yeah. And it's incredibly important, I think, because now that I know you're my age, I can say this. When you're older, only looking back, do you realize that even some of those what seem like meaningless jobs or tasks that you may have had actually benefit you today? So I guess my question to you is this. What skills do you feel that you've acquired over the years that now looking back are like, wow, those became invaluable?
Well, I think, again, I think the fact that both my parents were teachers. So my dad was the math professor. My mom was like an elementary school teacher. So it was one of those things like no matter what, like it could be, a sign where something had incorrect punctuation, or something came up on TV or spelled wrong or using bad grammar, and my parents would point it out. And so those are things that were kind of ingrained in me. I mean, I had a lot of, privilege in that way too. I mean, like all four of my grandparents, I don't know how many people can say this, went to college. So I had education handed down to me. Right. And expectation handed down to me.
So surprised you were a teacher, man.
There actually was a time after because again, I graduated with a philosophy degree. What was I going to do? And I didn't know what I was going to do. And I started taking classes to be a teacher. And I can't even tell you what happened. I don't know what happened. It lasted like a semester or something, and that was it. I have no idea.
But you're teaching now, though. Like, you are teaching in some capacity.
It's teaching in a different way.
Different, yeah.
Yeah.
Than traditional. Not in a classroom, per se.
So those skills, analytically, math, I wouldn't even consider myself a big math nerd. Like, I'm not great. Like, you get into high school math and advanced high school math, I can't help you.
Yeah, that's my daughter. I'm like, you're on your own.
Right.
I'll pay for a tutor, but I can't help.
Exactly. But basic, like, statistics, probability, just evaluation of results and things like that, I love doing. And I feel like I'm pretty good at. And then, like, writing, that came also from not only the upbringing, but I went to a liberal arts school where, like, you couldn't major in journalism. You had to major in, like, I majored in English, and then I majored in philosophy. And it was like, you did so much writing, basically, along the way.
Yeah.
And honestly, the philosophy stuff was really helpful because that's where you learn logic, whether something makes sense or not. Yeah. Ethics, was a big part of that. Evaluating, what you're willing to do and not willing to do. Where's your line? How do you cross it? So I think that sets a foundation for who you are as a person.
Yes.
And also in business, and because that comes up a lot. What are you willing or not willing to do?
Yes.
What are your core values? And
a lot of things. That's a good point, because a lot of opportunities come up where you could make some really good money if you're willing to cross your own ethical boundaries.
Correct.
There's a lot of shady marketing, and people want to hire marketers to do shady stuff. If we're willing to do it, we'll get paid well. I've had to say no a handful of times to those types of things. So it's a great point.
Yeah. And it's hard when things aren't great to say no.
Yeesh. Yes. Very hard.
But, those things, there's a lot of experiences realizing what I do and don't like. My first job was as a telemarketer.
Oh, goodness. Really?
And I was probably the worst telemarketer there's ever been. Because if you said no, I said, okay, have a good day.
I respect that decision. Goodbye.
I wasn't going to talk you into it. And I think that kind of stuff, though, carried over into my approach to my business.
I love that.
So, but no, I agree. There's no, everything that we go through, that experience helps.
Good or bad?
Good and bad, absolutely. It molds us. Just like with my oldest son being a cancer survivor, that truly changed my outlook on life, and also impacted what I'd be willing to do and not do because of that. So
you're not willing to go Breaking Bad?
Not willing to go Breaking Bad.
I mean, sometimes it seems like it might be necessary. Oh, thank goodness I didn't have to go there.
Yeah.
But I can market the crap out of anything.
Exactly. Well, it's also helpful, when things aren't great, to remember, okay, well, what's most important? We got our health. We're good.
When I quit my job, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. It was in 2009. And looking back, well, even then, I was like, I'm starving. I was literally starving. There was 3 or 4 years where if my daughters came over, we ate very little, or sometimes I'd have them every other weekend. I'd tell them to stay home to please if their mom could keep them, because I could not afford anything. But I was determined that this was going to work. Something inside of me said, I can make this work if I could just hold on. I'll figure it out. Right. And looking back, I didn't realize there was a recession going on. That was actually not the greatest time to quit. Yeah. But it was something that inside of me that said, I know I can figure this out. I know this is the future. I just need to buy time. So it's those sacrifices you're willing to make. And because I was home with them, I guess is a big point I wanted to make. I was able to go all their events, anything in school. We started a chess club accidentally. we go to the park. I had every opportunity to be with them a little more. I would take, because I was at home anyways. And I try to do it on the cheap. As long as I could do that, then I'd be there. And those are the kind of sacrifices sometimes you have to make.
I don't know about you, but what you said about spending that time, in a weird way, some of my favorite times were during those first few months of COVID, of lockdown, where no one could leave, and we spent so much time together. I had kids in high school, and they couldn't leave.
You're stuck with me.
Actually, one kid in high school, one who was supposed to be in college, but he was home. And so it was we get this. I almost felt like we were getting overtime, getting extra time that we wouldn't have otherwise had, and the board games and the puzzles and the other various things, keeping ourselves busy. I mean, that's something that very few people are going to experience outside of something like that, where you're just, because with technology and everybody's just go and go, go, go. I mean, it was 6 weeks. We were just together.
100%.
Yeah.
100% of the time. That actually brings up a great point that I say a lot is that kids don't care about a lot of things. They just want your time. And as they get older, they don't care more as much for your time together anymore. Yeah. It's not to say that they don't love you or whatnot, but if you give them that time when they're younger, when they're older, it becomes less of an issue. I know for mine, I still don't get them a lot. And now that they're older, there's moments I've had to overcome this. Like 6 or 8 months ago, I was like almost damn near crying every time I thought about it. Because my older one has already moved on. She's got a full-time job. She's working in a marketing agency.
Oh, wow.
The other one is involved in so much with her high school. She's in the band. She's the drum major. She's doing this. She's doing that. And here I am, like, I don't know what to do with myself anymore. My whole life was built around trying to be present, involved. But I know that at the end of the day, I've done enough and I've been involved enough to have made a positive impact. And I did give them as much time as I could. Now, hopefully they remember to give me some later.
Oh man, I feel you. That's the hard part. And like, I'm dreading the day our youngest moves on. Like, what are we going to do? But, you talk about your oldest starting marketing agency. My oldest, again, the cancer survivor, he's going to med school next summer, year. The next school year. Once again, we talk about experiences impacting you and your what you end up doing. You're darn right that impacted what he decided to do. But also just his approach to life. Like he's a little bit more of a risk taker than the rest of our other two.
Is he really?
Well, it's like he lives every day like it matters.
Any day every day's a blessing.
Yeah, but he's just a great kid, and
I love that.
I'm just so proud. Like that's the other thing. Like you talk about, I was, going into tears thinking about like that's a daily occurrence. I feel like for a lot of us dads and parents. I mean, just the little things. Like I was never really a crier until I was a parent, and I feel like this is like a commercial. Like, it's just a stupid commercial, and I'm crying about a commercial. Like, what's wrong with that?
Yeah, forget about it. The new Ant-Man. I saw the preview to it. I said, "Oh my God, it's a dad movie." There's a dad angle to this. I'm already getting emotional watching the preview. This is terrible.
Funny. That's funny.
I'm weird that way. I love my girls. I've done so much. I wanted to do better. And now they're older, and I think they are better. So I've done my job. So I can hang my hat on that. But and they know this too. Like, Dad, please don't cry. I'm like, well, I don't cry in public or anything like that, but I can't promise anything. Like, I love you, kids.
Well, and you're living a life that I have no perspective on at all. It's just having daughters. Like, that's a completely different world. Like, man, I'm a mess now. Like, I'm sure I'd be even more of an emotional mess if I had a daughter, especially because a lot of times they say daughters tend to be daddy's girls.
Pretty much.
Whereas like my boys, like they love me too, but their mom, I mean, come on, no one can replace their mom. And so like whenever like my boys in college or, they want to send in updates, it's always going to my wife. Aww. And then I have to get them from my wife. But yeah, it's, having daughters, man, I can't imagine.
It's people used to tell me, it's like, you're gonna have a tough time with girls. It's difficult. It's this and that. If you have daughters, and I would think about that. And I thought to myself, like, I've always been pretty respectful of women. I've never been a pig or anything like that. Yeah. I think I'm gonna be all right. Yeah, and I have been. I have great daughters. They're great kids. I definitely have to be mindful of the fact they're women. And try to figure out how to be a father to little girls. And it was a challenge, but I think I was able to step up and honor them as females and still show up as myself.
Well, it's often it's a different type of relationship, though, I think, oftentimes.
It is. It's very much so. I always try to take the approach of not over... Like, I never got them dolls. Yeah. Because I knew that they were going to get plenty of dolls from everyone around them. So I always try to provide more of the masculine, still masculine presence while understanding that they're females and having that softness. Mm-hmm. we played baseball, we played basketball. They can throw football. I always talk about that. Like I wanted them to have a good hand-eye coordination. They're both have that angle, so I made sure that I still respected them as females, but make sure that they also had some good hand, like just the stuff that I think is also necessary. They're just good human beings at the end of the day.
That's what's most
but recognizing that made me so happy that I could talk about them. I used to be really bad. Like if everybody brought them up, I'm like, oh crap. So I'd be blabbing on for 15 or 20 minutes.
Sure.
So I've gotten better about restraining myself. So I'm going to stop there.
No restraint needed.
Yeah.
I
Jon,
get it.
It's 3:06. I know you got other things to do. I could talk to a
It's
dad
Friday,
about...
man. It's Friday.
It is Friday. Dude, I forgot about that. Usually I have these interviews on Wednesdays. So I'm off in my scheduling.
Gotcha.
I do appreciate your time. I look forward to posting this because I'm excited to share our stories and your stories as a father. Been a fantastic time. Do you have anything? Where can people find you? Anything you'd like to share with the world, the World Wide Web?
Yeah, man. I mean, that JonLoomer.com is still kicking. So,
Yeah, it is.
I mean, these days it's not just Facebook advertising. I'm talking, short form video and Chat GPT and AI and really how all those kind of come together. But that's my home base. But you can find me everywhere, I swear. I mean, if you're on TikTok, if you're on Instagram, it's at Jon Loomer. YouTube, LinkedIn, it's all Jon Loomer. Facebook, Jon Loomer Digital. I do have a podcast, the Pubcast with Jon Loomer. And
you are everywhere.
Tends to be a little casual. Yep. Casual like this, honestly. But we tend to have drinks on the Pubcast.
Yeah, I saw that. I always feel like, man, I want to do one of those types of shows. For those of you listening, definitely check out Jon Loomer, all his stuff, because I know I have a lot of friends, a lot of colleagues that are not in the marketing space, but want to learn more. And I don't have a product or anything to sell in that space yet. Definitely check out Jon. He is a trustworthy individual who puts out great content, a lot of free content, and his paid stuff is fantastic as well. So check it out, learn some stuff. He's definitely at the cutting edge and start trying to stay in touch, which I am also, to make sure that we stay relevant and continue to be able to produce value for our clients as well as for ourselves.
That's right.
Thank you, Jon. Having said that, we'll see you in the next episode. Ta-ta.
Thanks so much, Teevee.
Thank you.